Hello guys, and welcome to Inspired Earth. This is going to be the news, and we got a rescue at the end, and yeah, just mainly just a bunch of pretty strange news that I wanted to talk about this week. And we're going to start off with a new topic that is listening to electronic music alters your state of consciousness, study shows, which we had just talked about using electronic signals to change consciousness in the past episodes, and using music even, particularly with drumming. And they were saying that ritual drumming and chanting changed people's consciousness and grew their brain physically and linked their brain regions together, and just like a whole bunch of stuff like that. And what they came out with February 26th was that University of Barcelona, which is Spain, said that electronic music can change people's consciousness, and that both the beats per minute and the hertz, they list those here, and it says that research was led by Raquel Aparicio Terres at University of Barcelona, gathered 19 individuals between the ages of 18 and 22. The participants were given the 6 one-minute snippets of electronic music to listen to at either 1.65 hertz, 99 beats per minute, 2.25 hertz, 135 beats per minute, or 2.85 hertz, 171 beats per minute. The tracks included Endless Horizons by Damika, Mind Expander by Audiomatic, and Audio Slave by Vertex, according to Free Malaysia Today. Therese and researchers had used electroencephalography, I always have trouble with that word, which records the spontaneous electrical activity of the brain. That's EEG. That's like a way easier way of saying it, EEG. Via electrodes attached to the scalp, this method gives them insight into the individual's altered state of consciousness, which is really big in past people's, ancient people's societies. That's how they accessed all of this information and stuff in the past, in their spiritual states. That's how they would answer their questions. They would go into these altered states of consciousness through all these different methods. And this is talking about like a modern method. Altered states of consciousness are loosely defined as any condition which is significantly different from a normal waking state. This can also be caused by recreational drugs, experiences of trauma, or medication. The study lent its focus to the occurrence of entertainment. That takes place when synchronization arises between external rhythmic stimuli, such as electronic music, and the firings of the neurons of the brain, according to new scientists, and that can occur via dancing and foot tapping. So it's interesting that once again they're talking about synchronization of external stimuli with internal stimuli. That's what we were talking about with the previous episode in magnetism, that the external stimuli of the earth is influencing the internal stimuli of the dialogue of our subconscious and conscious brain, which we still haven't completely understood, like, the ramifications of that. Our top level scientists are still grasping at what that actually means. We've found out that it's true, but what does it mean? Where is it going to lead us? We don't know where that is going to lead us to. We have hints, and we can look towards the past to where it will likely lead us in the future, but we are not sure where that's going to go. The participants were asked several questions pertaining to neurological impact of the music on their state of consciousness. For example, their level of focus and reaction times. Researchers ultimately found that individuals' brain activity synchronized with the rhythms they were hearing, notably at 1.65 hertz. And it's also interesting that the lower frequencies were the ones that, even in the previous episodes, were the ones that, like, seemed to have the most effect and was the easiest for people to tune into, or somehow the lower ones are just more effective for some reason, it seems, because you keep on hearing them over and over, that those are the ones that work by these scientists. And they say that this 1.65 hertz, which was the lowest again, experienced the feeling of unity the most. Response variations in this task can provide insight into attentional focus and motor response readiness, which may be influenced by altered states of consciousness. The study may help build a case for the benefits of entertainment's dissociative-like states as a therapeutic stress-busting tool. Last year, it was reported that 93% of young people treat music lyrics as a therapeutic tool when dealing with mental health. Another study carried out by McGill University of Montreal, Canada, found that emotional responses generated by listening to music gives you chills, which can relieve pain. And I think it's because those chills are endorphins, and endorphins will make it to where you don't feel pain. It's like a brain chemical that it releases. So moving on, we have another pretty strange one. I mean, it's kind of obvious. Some of these are more obvious than others. You might have heard them before in other places, or this is just like another affirmation, like another study confirming this, that ADHD may have been evolutionarily advantageous, research suggests. Traits associated with neurodevelopmental disorders could have helped early humans when foraging for food. Traits common to attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, such as distractibility or impulsivity, might have been an evolutionary advantage for our ancestors by improving their tactics when foraging for food. ADHD is a neurodevelopmental disorder which symptoms include impulsiveness, disorganization, and difficulty focusing. While estimates of prevalence have varied, diagnoses have been rising in many countries. Now researchers say while some of these traits tend to be viewed negatively, they may have been picked up and help people seek out new patches for foraging. Dr. Burrick of University of Pennsylvania was the first author of research, said that the study offered a potential explanation for why ADHD was more prevalent than expected from random genetic mutations alone, and more broadly, why traits such as distractibility or impulsivity were common. If the traits of distractibility and impulsivity were truly negative, then you would think that over evolutionary time, they would have been selected against. Our findings are an initial data point suggests advantages of certain choice contexts. So, yeah, that's true. If it was like completely negative, then why would so many people be experiencing these symptoms? And we don't even fully understand the disease. Like how far we've come in understanding just this one disease in the past 25 years is absolutely mind-boggling. We didn't know anything, hardly at all, about ADHD 25 years ago, other than it made people different. That's basically all that you could say that we knew. But now we're starting to have a more nuanced version of the disease, and that it affects adults and children drastically different, and women and men completely differently. So those are things that we didn't know 25 years ago. The researchers found that participants with higher scores on the ADHD scale spent shorter periods of time in each patch of bushes than those with lower scores. In other words, they were more likely to abandon their current patch and hunt for a new one. Crucially, the team found such participants also gained more points in the game than those with lower scores on the ADHD scale. The researchers said that their results chimed with other work that has suggested populations with nomadic lifestyles benefited from exploring tended to have genes associated with ADHD. Barrick said it was necessary to carry out experiments involving people diagnosed with ADHD in real-world foraging tasks, not least as the latter would involve far more effort to move between patches than in an online game. Michael J. Rees, a professor at the Science Education at University College of London, who was not involved in the work, said ADHD appeared to be linked to serious negative consequences. He and his colleagues had argued it may help in situations where physical activity and rapid decision-making were highly valued. It is great to see experimental evidence from David Barak and his colleagues that participants who score highly from ADHD are more likely to switch to foraging activities in a way that can indeed be characterized as impulsive. In our evolutionary past, such behavior may sometimes have been highly advantageous. ADHD can cause serious problems, but it's a problem in large measure because of today's environments. So, what is that saying? That's saying that people in the past with ADHD had advantageous qualities that helped them survive, that today in our society are not appreciated or valued, and that it actually detracts from our ability to be in this world, because our world is not made for us. So, and I also wanted to note something hopeful that this came out also February 26th, the same day actually, ironically, that stimulant medication in children, let me move my, wrong one, there we go, let me move my camera here. Stimulant medication in children with ADHD normalize the structure of brain regions associated with attention and reward. So it's saying that you can, if you're a child that's taking the right medication, it can actually normalize their brain, and hopefully that could be permanent. So normalizing your brain would be good. Yeah, I just wanted to quickly go over this one. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. I'm also not able to highlight the text as I wanted on this one. And it's basically talking about how the Department of Defense and all these different military operations, specifically DoD operations, that they're all switching to solar and carbon-free initiatives. And that includes this part right here. I thought that was very interesting. Space solar seemed like a pie in the sky at first when we first heard about it back in 2009, but the U.S. Naval Research Laboratory surveyed the technology and concluded that the hardware is available to capture renewable energy from orbiting solar arrays and beam it down to receivers on Earth. So they're saying right here that since 2009, we have been able to gather all of, not all, but energy from the sun and send it back down to Earth. So why are we not doing that? I mean, that's a long time ago. We've had a long time to get it together. Once again, they're just outright saying it at this point, that there are alternative energies. If you would have told people in 2009 that we have the ability to gather energy from the sun and beam it back down to the surface of the earth. I'm sure some people would have been open to it, but a lot of people would have not been open to it. And especially if you were to tell them the DoD already has it and they've confirmed it and we have the hardware and we're ready to do it, a lot of people would not believe that. But here we have the DoD saying that they had it and we still have it and we're ready to go basically at any moment. We could just start doing it. And another form of alternative energy here, scientists claim AI breakthrough to generate boundless clean fusion energy, and an AI model has solved one of the major roadblocks to generating fusion energy. And fusion combines atoms to make energy, generating more energy than it takes to power the reactor. Developing reactor-proof building materials, keeping the reactor free from impurities, and restraining the fuel within it are all issues that we're trying to solve to be able to get fusion. The researchers at Princeton University and Princeton Plasma Physics Laboratory have developed an AI that could solve that last problem. This model predicts and then figures out how to avoid plasma becoming unstable and escaping through the strong magnetic fields that hold it inside certain donut-shaped reactors. They published their findings Wednesday in a journal, Nature. And this was, where's the date? Can't find the date. Doesn't have it. But it was recent. This is Vice. I'm surprised it's even up. Wasn't Vice supposed to close? I have no idea what's going on with Vice News. But this article's up and we're reading it, so it's here. The study is significant, said co-author Jimin Xiao, because previous studies have only been able to suppress tearing instabilities after they happen. Our approach allows us to predict and avoid those instabilities before they ever appear. AI will play a large role in controlling and maintaining fusion reactors. Federico Falecci, a physicist at Swiss Federal Institute of Technology who wasn't involved in the study, there's a huge potential to unleash AI to get better control and figure out how to operate such devices in a more effective way. Falecci said his team had previously created an AI model to shape the plasma ring inside the variable configuration tokamak. I think it's tokamak. That's like the shape of the reactor. That's a donut-shaped reactor. That's really high pay grade stuff. They have a picture here, but I guess they make the reactor in the shape of a donut because that's the shape that the magnetism goes in, I would assume. Life spreads across the space on tiny invisible particles, study suggests. So we've all heard of panspermia for the most part, but that was more about comets and asteroids and stuff. But this one is particular on planetary dust grains, which travel much faster than those. So this is a much faster form of panspermia. The research is titled Possibility of Panspermia in the Deep Cosmos by the Means of Planetary Dust Grains. The sole author is Z.N. Osmanov from the School of Physics at the Free University of Tbilisi in the country of Georgia. The paper is in preprint and hasn't been published yet. By obtaining the assumption that planetary dust particles can escape from the gravitational attraction of the planet, we consider the possibility from the dust grains to leave the star's system by means of radiation pressure. So they're getting pushed out of the solar system. That's interesting. It has been shown that during 5 billion years, the dust grains will reach 10 to the 5th power stellar systems. And by taking the Drake equation into account, it has been shown that the whole galaxy will be full of planetary dust particles, which I feel like the Drake equation is it's cool, but it doesn't. I would say it's kind of conservative. We've discovered a lot since then, so there's probably a lot more out there. In particular, it has been pointed out that by means of solar radiation pressure, small dust grains containing live organism can travel to the nearest solar system, Alpha Centauri, in 9,000 years. However, our most powerful rockets would take over 100,000 years to make the journey. So you can see the difference in that. That's pretty significant. And super quickly, we gotta mention Elon Musk with the Neuralink update on the patient implanted with the brain chip. Apparently, they are surfing the web with their brain chip. That's interesting. The product is named Telepathy, and yeah, not much more to report on that. We're just gonna keep on giving you updates every time they talk about this first patient. If anything goes wrong with them, I'm not sure that we will know either. But if we suddenly stop getting updates, that'll be something that we will also probably cover. And then we have multiple megastructures found. Multiple this week, like 3. But this is just one of them. Scientists scanning the seafloor discover a long-lost Stone Age megastructure, and that in 2021, Jacob Gearson, a marine geologist now at Leibniz Institute of Baltic Sea Research, was on a 1-week field course, and they brought a research vessel out on the Baltic Sea. They didn't know it at the time, but 70 feet below the surface, they stumbled upon a stone wall more than a half-mile long that dated back to the Stone Age, one of the oldest megastructures on the planet. Gearson and his colleagues say a piece of ancient hunting architecture may have been used to corral and hunt reindeer, adding to the level of sophistication of prehistoric hunters who lived 10,000 to 11,000 years ago. This is just their theory, also. They don't really know. But Gearson was used to seeing rocks and stones show up on the echo sounder as bumpy anomalies scattered across the bottom of the Baltic Sea, left behind when the glaciers retreated from the northern Europe thousands of years ago, but back aboard the vessel of the Bay Meckelberg, he could already tell that what he was seeing was different. A year later, Gearson and his colleagues had a new batch of students return to the same site. They lowered a camera down and confirmed the ridge was made up of thousands of rocks that formed a kind of wall that was standing about 1.5 feet tall on average. It used a bunch of small stones like tennis and soccer ball size, but then there was places they had large stones where the direction of the wall changes. And later on, they say, I don't believe in UFOs, so it's got to be man-made, she concludes. Which, that was like, what? Why would you even say that? Like, I guess that was a joke. She and other archaeologists on the project agreed that the wall was likely to be used by hunter-gatherers. Once again, that's a big assumption. Why would you assume that it's hunter-gatherers and that it couldn't be something more? I mean, I feel like I guess that could be the simplest answer for them, but it kind of goes into that later, that they don't really know what it is. 10,000 to 11,000 years ago during the Stone Age to help them herd and hunt reindeer by the hundreds. If you build a structure like that, says Erican, you're someone who knows the entire area extremely well. You're not just moving around an unknown landscape. You don't just hope you can find a reindeer that day. You plan. You know where the reindeer will come next year. It's a theory that archaeologists have kicked around for a while, but she says this helps confirm that it may have been true in prehistoric Europe. Ultimately, the area was flooded, forming the Baltic Sea we know today, and submerging this piece of architecture under the water. It says, I was probably the most skeptical of the entire team, recalls Bryant Eckerson, and it wasn't until the other people on the boat started saying that it was probably something. Yeah, they said it was only when they went to the archaeologists that they said, you may have found something very significant. So he wasn't even, the actual scientists there didn't even believe what they were looking at was actually something. And then all of a sudden he's just going to be like, oh, well, they're hunter-gatherers. Well, you didn't even think there was anything there. So, and here we have research team develops universal and accurate method to calculate how proteins interact with drugs. And this is pretty intense. I'm just going to skip through some of it. It says that they developed a novel computational method that can accurately describe how proteins interact with molecules of potential drugs and do so in mere 10 minutes. Of course, we are not the only ones working on this. There are several hundred methods. Usually, however, their speed is offset by low accuracy, where more accurate calculations take several days. Our methods are unique in that they can process information about large molecular systems within 10 minutes, while retaining the benefits of more demanding quantum mechanical calculations. Experts from this group have been studying intermolecular interactions for a long time. In this research, they focus mainly on biomolecules, and the results of their work directly bear on the computer-aided designs of drugs. The reason is that when scientists work toward a new drug, they often look for molecules that bind strongly to a particular protein. Identifying them, however, is akin to finding needles in a haystack, as a large number of molecules have been tested to set apart those that show promise. This considerably slows down the discovery of medicinal substances and makes it more expensive. By predicting the strength of protein ligand binding, and thus signaling out molecules that best satisfy a defined set of criteria, computational chemists spare the work of experimenters, which in turn significantly accelerates drug discovery. So they came out with a computer that can do the work of multiple days all in like 10 minutes. And here we have another one from physics.org. A lot of these are from physics.org. They were coming out with some really cool stuff this week. Researchers developed molecules for a new class of antibiotics that can overcome drug-resistant bacteria. We've talked about antibiotic resistance on this podcast. We'll probably do it some more in the future. And with this one, it's the scientists saying, however, instead of brushing it off as another laboratory curiosity that all of the bacteria that were being killed, they tried to use this particular stuff and it ended up killing all the bacteria. And rather than just brushing it off or being upset about it, they ended up leaning into the apparent antimicrobial properties of these compounds called conjugated oligoelectrolytes, COE, conjugated oligoelectrolytes. Fast forward to today, and they now have the basis for a new class of antibiotics. One that not only shows promise against a broad array of bacterial infections, but can also evade the dreaded resistance that has been rendering our current generation of first-line antibiotics ineffective. We realized that the molecular framework that had been working on for some time, if properly designed, would yield a new class of antibiotics, something that is seldom found and that has been profound implications for modern medicine. A global problem. In 2019, an estimated 1.3 million deaths around the globe could be attributed to antimicrobial resistance. That's a lot. 1.3 million people. This figure assumes that if the resistant bacteria was replaced with a non-resistant bacteria of the same type, the patient would have survived. So these guys just discovered an antibiotic that will save 1.3 million people. Imagine just a snap of your fingers saving 1.3 million people. Just because of like one discovery that you made. And it's possible. They just showed us that it's possible. We can literally save millions of lives with one discovery.